in the same boat. And we need to stand as believers in this great deed of ours for all that is good and just in this world. Alhamdulillah. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Brothers and sisters, my message is that we need to embrace the struggle of African American people because it is our deen to be upholders of justice and equality, wherever it is. But also we embrace this month, which is to try to bring awareness to America about African Americans. That's the whole purpose. To bring awareness. But part of that awareness, and part of our awareness should be that African American Muslims have played a part in that history. African American Muslims have contributed much to the history of African Americans and to the history of America. And we should honor that, recognize that. After all, amongst the enslaved Africans that were brought to this country, at least 10% were Muslim. The vast majority from Senegambia, from the Senegal, Gambia, parts of Sierra Leone, and we got a lot of brothers and sisters here from that area. And there are many reports, not one report, there are many reports of those Africans, those African Muslims, retaining their religion. Many reports. Reports of them fasting, reports of them praying, reports of them refusing to eat pork. Many reports. And the contribution to America and culture in general, almost all musicologists say the blues are Senegambian. The banjo is Senegambian. The whole Brer Rabbit, maybe you're not familiar. I grew up with people, Shahid and I, old guys, we grew up with Brer Rabbit. It's a folk tale. Brer Rabbit, Senegambian. So many things that undoubtedly the Senegambian, the Muslim people brought to this country. But their Islam died out by 3 generations. We have a clear record of a man named Muhammadu Bilal, who lived on one of the sea islands off of Georgia, Sapelo Island. And he was the head master, the foreman of a gigantic plantation on Sapelo Island. And a good Muslim. Good Muslim. He's one of the ones who, there are records of people talking about how he fasted and how he prayed and things like that. His children were half and half in terms of practicing. Again, there are reports. In fact, while his grandchildren are just youngsters, he writes a book that still exists and is written in half Arabic, half Fulani. He was Fulani. And it's a manual of Islam. How to pray, how to live a life of a Muslim. It's like he was trying to pass on to the next generation. Because his children spoke Fulani. But by the third generation, his grandchildren, they had all left Islam. And that's true for all the other Muslims who were brought to this country. Islam is rediscovered by African Americans in the 1920s, 1930s. And again, the dual emphasis on this is a religion of struggle for what is right, for justice and equality. And this is a religion that espouses a lifestyle of righteousness, morality, clean living. And there are many people who are in the forefront of struggle who come out of that area. Probably the greatest is Malcolm X, Al-Hajj Malik Shabazz. Undoubtedly one of the great leaders in the history of America, African American history. And if you haven't read the autobiography of Malcolm X, I encourage you, because that will give you a sense of the story I'm talking about and why Islam has been so important to so many African Americans. But the African Americans that converted in the 20s and 30s, built masjids, started communities. I studied the history myself, and I counted more African American masjids in America in the late 40s, early 50s, than other masjids of brothers and sisters who come from overseas. Probably in the late 40s, there are more African American Muslims than brothers and sisters who have come from overseas. Of course, all of that changes in the 60s and 70s when immigration really picks up. Now, conversion also picks up, and you have a third wave in the history of African American Muslims. In the 60s, the 70s, large numbers of African Americans become Muslims. And out of that comes some of the greatest athletes that we have. Muhammad Ali, the greatest boxer in America. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. You should know Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Good Muslim. ESPN said he's the number 2 greatest basketball player, the greatest center. Right? Changed his name back in the early 70s from Lou Alcindor to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And he's still Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. So it's a great contribution that African American Muslims, if anything, one of our advocacies must be to recognize the contribution in the history of African American Muslims, which in general is ignored by almost everybody. So, just as an example, PBS just recently had a wonderful show on the Amistad Revolt. It was one of the few revolts on a slave ship that was successful. The Africans revolted, took over the ship. They tried to sail back to Africa. They could not. I don't have to go into the story. But the PBS show, they went back to, the Amistad Africans finally went back to Africa. And so these people who made this documentary went back and tried to find their towns or villages that they came from. And wallahi, every village they went to, everybody they interviewed were all Muslim. All of them were Muslim. All the villages they went to and talked to the people. But Islam was not mentioned one time in that documentary. Muslim was not mentioned one time in that documentary. and the telling of the story of the Amistad does not include Islam or Muslims. Just another example of how our contribution has not been recognized yet. So not only should we embrace this ideal of trying to make America more conscious of the African American struggle, we must make America more conscious of the contribution of African American Muslims to that struggle. May Allah bless all of us. Unite our hearts, because it's not about color now. It is not about color. It is about what is right and what is just. And let me add as a footnote, it's not about embracing everything black, everything African American. That's not what it's about either. It's about embracing the struggle. There's only one people that we embrace 100% as being right, and that's the Sahaba. There's only one culture that we embrace as being right, and that's the culture of Quran and Sunnah. So our commitment is not to necessarily the culture of all aspects of African Americans. In fact, many of us who became Muslim were critiquing the culture of African Americans because Islam offers a better alternative to the culture of African Americans. That is our ideal. That is what we're standing up for. May Allah bless us that we might be upholders of justice in this country and be in the forefront of the struggle for justice and equality and right in this country. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على قوم الكافرين. اللهم اغفر للمسلمين والمسلمات. Allah, forgive us, the believers, men and women. Forgive us our faults, our shortcomings, our weaknesses, our lack of energy, our lack of focus. Allah, increase in our hearts taqwa, increase in our hearts iman, and increase in our hearts the desire to do right in this world and to be upholders of justice. Muqim as-salah. Make sure your robe is straight. And make sure the robe before you is filled. We have long robes now, so make sure the robe before you is full. And we stand on kind of the ends of the red, the green. Our heels on the end of the green. Let us pray as if this is our farewell prayer. Allahu Akbar. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. Malik Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdina as-sirata al-mustaqim. صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. سابقوا إلى مغفرة من ربكم وجنة عرضها كعرض السماء والأرض أعدت للذين آمنوا بالله ورسوله ذلك فضل الله يؤتيه من يشاء الفضل العظيم. ما أصاب من مصيبة في الأرض ولا في أنفسكم إلا في كتاب من قبل أن نبرأها إن ذلك على الله يسير. لكي لا تهزع ولا ما فاتكم ولا تفرحوا بما آتاكم والله لا يحب كل مختال فخور. الذين يبخلون ويأمرون الناس بالبخل ومن يتولى فإن الله هو الغني الحميد. الله سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. لقد أرسلنا رسلنا بالبينات وأنزلنا الكتاب والميزان ليقوم الناس بالقسط وأنزلنا الحديد فيه بأس شديد ومنافع للناس وليعلم الله من ينصره ورسله بالغيب إن الله قوي عزيز. الله سمع الله لمن حمده. الله 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 أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.